Family, I want to welcome you into a divine moment because I don't believe you're here by accident. You didn't just stumble onto this word. No, the Spirit of God orchestrated this connection because there's something He wants to deposit into your life as you step into this new season. As we stand on the edge of 2025, I believe heaven is issuing a divine invitation, an invitation to transformation, not just change, because you can change your clothes, you can change your circle, you can even change your job, but transformation, that's deeper. Transformation is when God changes you from the inside out. There's a difference between living and becoming. You were not created to survive another year. You were created to rise into your identity, your purpose, and the authority God placed inside of you. That's why today we're talking about 5 rules to transform your life in 2025. Not tips, not suggestions, but divine principles that will shift your mindset, reshape your choices, and awaken you to the version of yourself that's been waiting to emerge. This isn't just about setting goals or making resolutions. This is about positioning yourself to walk in divine alignment. It's about surrendering your timeline to God's plan and recognizing that transformation doesn't start with a new year, it starts with a new you. So I want you to lean in, take notes, open your heart, and prepare for heaven to speak. Because if you let Him, God is going to use 2025 not just to elevate you, but to transform you. Transformation begins when obedience overrides comfort. Many of us pray for change, declare new seasons, and cry out for breakthrough. But when God gives us instructions that require discomfort, we hesitate. We want transformation without inconvenience, elevation without sacrifice. But true transformation only begins when our obedience is louder than our desire for ease. Obedience is not just about following rules. It's about trusting God's voice when it leads us away from what's familiar. It's about surrendering our will for His and believing that what He asks us to let go of, He will replace with something greater. There is a tension that always exists between comfort and calling. Comfort says, stay here, this is safe. But calling says, come higher, there's more. And in between those two voices is the voice of God asking us to choose obedience, not because He wants to make life hard, but because He wants to make us whole. Every time God asks you to move beyond what's familiar, it's because there's a version of you He sees that you haven't stepped into yet. He's not asking you to abandon comfort to hurt you. He's asking you to obey because He wants to grow you. In 2025, many people will stay exactly where they are, not because they're not gifted, not because they don't have purpose, but because they refuse to leave the comfort zone. Comfort is a counterfeit peace. It feels like rest, but it often masks fear. It feels like stability, but it can become a prison. And the longer we stay in comfort, the harder it becomes to recognize when God is calling us out of it. That's why obedience has to become our default response to God, even when it's scary, even when it costs us something, even when it doesn't make sense. Look at the life of Abraham. He was told to leave his country, his family, and everything familiar to go to a place God would show him. Not a destination map, not a 5-step plan, just a promise. And because he obeyed, he became the father of nations. His obedience unlocked generational blessings. But what if he had chosen comfort instead? What if he said, God, I'll go when you give me more information? That hesitation could have altered history. Obedience doesn't wait for clarity. It moves because it trusts God's character. And this is what the Lord is pressing into His people for this year. He's saying, stop asking for transformation while clinging to what's comfortable. You can't become who God called you to be while staying who you've always been. There's a shedding required, a releasing. Sometimes that means walking away from relationships, opportunities, or patterns that feel good, but are not God. Sometimes that means saying yes to assignments that stretch you, environments that challenge you, and disciplines that refine you. But on the other side of that obedience is transformation. When your desire to obey outweighs your need for comfort, you begin to live differently. You begin to trust differently. You begin to see how much more God has for you when you stop settling for what's easy and start pursuing what's eternal. Your discipline in secret will determine your influence in public. We live in a world where we often measure success by what is visible, how many followers we have, how many doors are opening for us, how much applause we're receiving. But the truth is, the foundation of lasting influence is built in the unseen, in the moments when no one is watching. The discipline to remain faithful in the quiet moments of life is what truly sets apart those who are simply popular from those who are genuinely powerful. If you can't be trusted with the small, hidden things, how can God trust you with the larger platforms? It's easy to show up when there's a crowd. It's easy to be passionate when you're on stage, when the spotlight is on you and everyone is cheering you on. But the real test of your character comes when no one is there to see your efforts, when you're doing the hard work behind the scenes, when you're praying when no one is asking you to, when you're showing up in areas of your life where there's no external validation. These are the moments that shape you into someone who is not just gifted, but anointed. These are the moments where your spiritual strength is forged, where your relationship with God deepens, and where your true influence is born. In 2025, you will see that what's done in private will manifest in public. If you've been consistent in your prayer life, even when no one sees you on your knees, you will begin to see the fruit of that discipline in your relationships, your work, and your ministry. If you've been faithful to walk in integrity when no one is around to keep you accountable, God will reward you with open doors and favor. But it starts with how you show up when no one is watching. Your private victories set the stage for public breakthroughs. God honors faithfulness in the secret place. David was anointed king not when he was parading around in the field, but when he was alone, tending to the sheep. He wasn't looking for attention. He was doing the work that God had placed before him with excellence, even when no one else saw. His discipline in the secret place prepared him to be a king in the public. It's the same with us. Your influence in public is not just determined by your talents, your charm, or your social media presence. It's determined by the depth of your relationship with God, your commitment to his word, and your ability to stay consistent when no one else is looking. This is why we cannot skip the process of discipline. There's no shortcut to influence that lasts. You may be tempted to believe that if you could just get a platform, if you could just get in front of the right people, things would change. But God is saying to you today, what you do in private is more important than what you do in public. It's your quiet obedience, your consistent prayer, your commitment to doing what's right, even when it's not easy, that positions you for the kind of influence that moves mountains. If you want to be the kind of person who not only has influence, but who leaves a lasting impact, then you must commit to the discipline of the secret place. That's where your character is developed, your spirit is refined, and your faith is strengthened. It's there that God prepares you for what's ahead. Without it, the spotlight can quickly reveal your lack of preparation, your unhealed wounds, and your unpolished character. But with it, God will elevate you, knowing that you've been refined, tested, and made ready for the purpose he has for you. Your influence in the public realm is a direct result of your discipline in the secret place. Stay faithful, stay consistent, and watch as God elevates you to places you never thought possible. Stop negotiating with fear when God has already spoken. One of the greatest barriers to transformation is the fear that arises when God calls us to step into something new, something unfamiliar. We all experience it, the voice of fear whispering doubt, hesitation, and insecurity as we stand at the edge of a new season. Fear tells you, you can't do it. You're not ready. It's too big for you. But let me tell you this, when God has spoken, fear has no place. The truth is, you don't have to have everything figured out. You don't need a detailed plan, and you don't need to know every step. All you need is to trust in his word and take the first step in obedience. We see this principle throughout the Bible. Take Moses, for example. God called him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, but his immediate response wasn't one of bold faith. It was filled with fear and self-doubt. Moses asked God, who am I to go to Pharaoh? What if they don't believe me? What if they don't listen? Moses was negotiating with fear. He was trying to reason with his insecurities instead of trusting in God's ability to equip him for the task ahead. But God didn't need Moses to have all the answers. He just needed Moses to say yes, to trust that God had already gone ahead of him and would be with him every step of the way. Fear will always try to convince you that you're not capable of what God has called you to do. It will try to tell you that you're not qualified, not experienced enough, not strong enough. But the truth is that God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called. When God speaks over your life, it's not based on your current abilities or limitations. It's based on his power and his promise. You are not stepping into something in your own strength. You are stepping into something with God backing you every step of the way. His word will always be greater than your fear. The challenge is whether you will trust in what God has said or whether you will let fear dictate your response. In 2025, God is calling many of us to walk into new territories, new opportunities, and new responsibilities. And fear will try to rise up. It will try to convince you to settle, to stay comfortable, to avoid risk. But if you've been in a season of stagnation or frustration, you must understand that your hesitation, your negotiation with fear, is holding you back from the transformation God has for you. The longer you allow fear to dictate your decisions, the longer you delay your breakthrough. When God speaks, it's a declaration of his will. Your job is not to second guess it or try to rationalize it, but to obey and move forward in faith. Fear is a liar. It's a tool that the enemy uses to keep you from walking in your purpose. Fear doesn't want you to see what's on the other side of your obedience. It doesn't want you to experience the joy, the peace, and the breakthrough that God has prepared for you. But when you step forward in faith, when you stop negotiating with fear and start trusting God, you will see how he makes a way. The doors that were once closed will open. The opportunities that once seemed impossible will become within reach. And all because you chose to trust in God's word over the lies of fear. It's time to silence the voice of fear and step into what God has for you. Your obedience will always outweigh your fear. When you trust God's voice over your doubts, you activate the supernatural power of God in your life. Fear doesn't stand a chance against his promises. So, as you move into 2025, remember, when God speaks, you don't need to negotiate with fear. You just need to move. There is power in persistence, especially when you feel like giving up. Life can be overwhelming, and sometimes the path you're walking seems longer than you ever imagined. You face obstacles that seem insurmountable, and the weight of the journey can become unbearable. It's during these times that the temptation to quit becomes stronger. But what if I told you that your breakthrough is often closer than you think? What if the moment of your greatest victory is just beyond the moment you're ready to give up? Persistence is not just a virtue, it's a key to unlocking the doors to your purpose. You see, the world tends to celebrate immediate success, the quick wins, the fast rises, the instant gratification. But God's plan for you is not based on convenience, it's based on growth, character, and the perseverance to keep moving forward even when things aren't easy. It's in the struggle, the constant pressing, and the relentless pursuit of what he has promised that you find your true strength. In the Bible, we see so many stories of people who persisted through difficult times. One of the most inspiring is the story of the woman with the issue of blood. For 12 long years, she suffered in silence, facing rejection, exhaustion, and hopelessness. She had tried everything. She had seen many doctors, spent all her money, and yet nothing had worked. She was at her lowest point, but she didn't give up. She heard that Jesus was coming, and despite the crowd, despite the shame, despite the fear of being rejected, she pressed through. She was persistent, determined that even if she could just touch the hem of his garment, she would be healed, and that persistence paid off. Jesus recognized her faith and healed her. She was restored, not because of her perfect circumstances, but because of her refusal to give up. This woman's story is a powerful reminder that persistence is often the key that unlocks the doors to the breakthrough we've been waiting for. She didn't let her circumstances define her faith. She didn't let the years of suffering make her believe that healing was impossible. Her persistence changed her life, and it can change yours too. So many times we're on the brink of something incredible, but we can't see it because we're focused on the struggle. We're ready to quit because we don't realize that persistence is the very thing that will bring us closer to our breakthrough. In 2025, I believe that God is calling many of us to persevere through the challenges, to keep moving forward even when the road is tough, even when the end is unclear. And the key to unlocking that breakthrough is persistence. The enemy will try to make you believe that it's easier to quit, that you're not cut out for this journey, that your dreams are too big for you to handle. But the truth is, persistence is a weapon. It's the thing that separates those who experience their promises from those who give up too soon. It's the unwavering belief that God is with you, even when the circumstances don't seem to align with what you expected. You're not walking this journey alone. God is with you every step of the way. And when you persist, when you keep pushing, even when the path is unclear and the struggles seem endless, you position yourself for the breakthrough that God has promised you. Your persistence is an act of faith. It's saying, God, I trust you, even when I can't see the end of the road. I believe you will make a way, even when there seems to be no way. And it's in that place of faith that God moves on your behalf. The breakthrough, the healing, the provision, the victory, it's all on the other side of your persistence. Don't let the difficulty of the journey rob you of your destiny. Don't let the temptation to quit blind you to what God is doing in the midst of the struggle. Keep pressing forward, keep showing up, keep trusting, because your persistence is not in vain. God sees your effort and he honors your faithfulness. In life, we often look for instant results, but God works in seasons. We want the harvest without waiting for the seed to grow. We want the finished product without the refining process. Yet it's the process that shapes us and prepares us for the blessings that God has in store for us. We must learn to embrace the waiting. The time of waiting is not a time of inactivity or stagnation. It's a time of preparation, a time where God is molding and shaping us for what's to come. In the waiting, God is strengthening our character, building our faith, and teaching us how to trust him fully. We can't rush the process. The fruit that God has promised us cannot be rushed. It must grow at its own pace. It's easy to get discouraged when we don't see immediate results. But the truth is that God's timing is always perfect. What we often don't realize is that while we're waiting, he is working behind the scenes, arranging everything in our favor. The waiting period is not wasted. It's during this time that God is preparing us for the blessing, refining us so that we can handle the weight of the promise. Just because you haven't seen the manifestation of your prayers yet doesn't mean that God is not at work. He's preparing you for something greater than you could ever imagine. Trust that he knows the right timing. He knows exactly when to release the blessing. If we rush the process, we risk missing out on the full measure of what God has for us. Think about the way a seed grows into a tree. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. The seed must first go into the ground, then it needs time to germinate, grow roots, and develop into something strong enough to bear fruit. If the seed is rushed or forced to grow too quickly, it won't survive. In the same way, if we skip the process or try to bypass the lessons of the waiting period, we won't be able to sustain the blessings that God has in store. God's timing is perfect. The process is necessary. You are in a season of preparation, even if it feels like nothing is happening. Don't be discouraged. Trust that God is moving, even when you can't see it. He's getting you ready for the breakthrough, the elevation, and the purpose he has for you. You may not see it now, but everything you're going through is preparing you for what's to come. Hold on, keep trusting, and keep moving forward because your time is coming. The waiting will not last forever. And when the time comes, it will be more than worth the wait.